Greetings, my name is Hector, and welcome to the first video of the Nerd Herd. Today we have a very exciting one, that is the unboxing of the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. Very excited to dive in and show you guys what's inside the box. But before we start, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, give us a big thumbs up. It's really appreciated. It actually helps the channel to grow, so please help us. Now, before we open the box, I thought a little bit of backstory will be good to explain how we got here. The first question is how Konami ended up releasing the TurboGrafx-16. Back in the 90s, the TurboGrafx-16 was actually released by a console called Hudson Entertainment. Hudson Entertainment is mostly known for games like Bomberman and Bunks. So they released this console back in the 90s to compete with the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. And unfortunately, it did not do very well in the Americas. However, the PC Engine, the way it was known in Japan, actually did very well. At some point, it actually had about 20% market share. So very interesting backstories in there, and maybe in another video I'll go a little bit deeper into that. However, during from the 90s all the way to the 2000s, back in 2012, Hudson Entertainment ran into some financial trouble, and they're basically going bankrupt. So what ends up happening is they got acquired by Konami. Konami bought like 52% of the company and became majority shareholder, and that's how they end up acquiring all the intellectual properties that Hudson had, which included the TurboGrafx-16. So that's how Konami ends up releasing the TurboGrafx-16 Mini, because they actually are owners of Hudson Entertainment, and as a result they have all of it now. Now, let's talk about the box itself before I go into it. I really appreciate what they did with the box. They actually pay a lot of attention to detail, and I love my boxes. I collect them all, and I think that they did an amazing job. This is exactly the same design that the North American market got when the original TurboGrafx-16 was released. Now, there is something on the front that I think is actually pretty interesting, because it's a play on words and it's a marketing scheme that they use to try to push the console. It's actually pretty smart. They actually called it the Entertainment Super System. Now, the reason they did that is because back in the 80s, when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out in the Americas, Nintendo called it that way because there was the big video game crash, and people didn't really like the word video games. So what Nintendo did is they didn't call it a video game, they called it a Nintendo Entertainment System. So what they do here is, because they're trying to convey that their console is better and faster, has more power, they went with the Super System. So pretty interesting, and I really thought it was kind of cool. Now, if we flip the box in the back, we got every single game that's included, which is 57 of them. That is a lot of content, and I'm so happy that Konami went so far to actually include all these real awesome classics. Now, I'm not gonna go one by one, but you got your big hitters. You got your Bunks, you got your Bomberman, you got your R-Type, your Alien Crush. All those really good games that the TurboGrafx-16 were known for. Now, there is something interesting that they did that I really appreciated. If you look at the bottom right here, there are some games that are actually Japanese games, so they're included in the North American version. The reason they did that is because these games, unfortunately, were never released outside of Japan, and part of them, or vast majority of them, were because they came out for what they called the Super CD peripheral. It was a CD-based system that you hooked up to the TurboGrafx-16, and you can play CD-based games. Unfortunately, that flopped majorly in the United States because it was very expensive. So nobody actually bought it. And a lot of these really great games never actually made it outside Japan. So this actually is gonna be the first time for a lot of people out there that never got to play those amazing games. And I'm talking about games like Gradius 2 or Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which both games are absolutely amazing. And if you never played those games and you're a fan of those franchises, I highly, highly advise you pick this up and try them, because they are absolute masterpieces. They really show what the TurboGrafx-16 was capable of doing back in the day. It is unfortunate, however, that it got overshadowed by the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. But hey, you know, it's a really cool, nostalgic way to go back in time. Now, I've been talking enough. Let's go ahead and open it. So right here, I'm gonna open it right here. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right. Whew, I'm so excited. I have waited for this for like a year since they announced it. All right. Oh, really cool. So they actually included a instruction manual. That's really cool. I own this Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo one, and none of them actually had an instruction manual. This is pretty cool. Just basic stuff. They just talk about, you know, health issues and how to use the console. Very neat. I really appreciate the detail. That's really cool. Now, here is the console itself right here. Let's see what we got here. All right. Oh, that's cool. All right, now check that out. That is a cool looking mini system. Now I want to point out something. I know a lot of people are thinking like, how is this mini? Because this is pretty substantial compared to the other ones. Super Nintendo is very tiny, and so does the Sega Genesis. This seems a little bit bigger compared to them. The reason why this looks like this and it looks sort of big is because the TurboGrafx-16 was actually a very big console. It was like this big. So this is substantially smaller. And they did that because they did this marketing research. They find out during the 80s and the beginning of the 90s, a lot of people out there really thought that the bigger the console, the more powerful it was. So believe it or not, the original PC Engine was about this size right here. So all this empty space was actually empty space when they released it in the North Americas. They're just trying to make it as big as possible so people can buy their console because they thought their console was bigger and somehow it was more powerful. Very interesting, kind of weird, but it's an interesting part of the story of history of video games. Now in here, we got your power button. And of course we got 2 USBs so we can hook up the control pad. Now, the original console didn't have that. It actually just had one, and you had to buy a multi-tab so you can actually play with other people. But hey, it is a nice addition, and I really do like that. So we got the system right here. Now let's look at the controller. Okay, let's see what we got here. Ah, yes. So this is a controller right here. Now, the TurboGrafx-16 was actually known because it has these little triggers right here that you can actually go up and down. And what that is actually an embedded turbo system. Very cool. A lot of people really appreciate that, specifically for games like shoot 'em ups like Galaga or Gradius. That way you didn't have to keep pressing the button. You can just hold it and it would just do it. And what's really cool, it actually shows you the intensity. So you can actually go up a little bit if you don't want that much, or you can just go all full throttle if you needed to. So very neat, really like that. Now, this is freaking awesome. This is by far one of the coolest things they did. This is a long cable. And I really like that because the reality is the Nintendo Classic Edition came with laughably short cables. It was only about 3 feet. So whenever they released a Super Nintendo one, they upped it a little bit. It was like maybe 5 feet. It's still too short. Sega Genesis did okay. I don't think it was that bad, but this is awesome. I mean, look at this. This actually allows you to play from the couch, which is awesome. So really cool. I'm so happy they actually did that. It seems to me like Konami really thought everything through. So, and what else we got inside here? All right, so we got the AC, just a micro USB, nothing special. I do want to point out something interesting about this. In here also, we got the HDMI cable. You can hook it up to an HDTV, and it will output at 720p, which is really cool. Now, the one thing I want to point out about this system before you buy it is that yes, it comes with an AC adapter to just to plug it in the back, but it doesn't come with the actual plug that goes in the wall. So in order for you to use this, you're gonna need to either buy one separately, which kind of stinks, or you could use one that you have home. I'm sure there's a specific amount of voltage you're supposed to do, but they didn't include it in the box for some reason, which is weird. But that's pretty much it. Pretty cool system. I'm very eager to dive in and try it out. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the stroll with me into nostalgia. So stay around. I am gonna do a review on this, and I'm gonna talk about the software inside, how the emulation is working, how's it sound, all the really cool details that I'm sure you will like to see before you buy the console. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a big thumbs up. You have a wonderful day. Bye.